New York Bio held our second annual Patient Engagement Summit on April 6th, 2022, a virtual forum to bring the voice of the patient into the biotech innovation spectrum. This year, we presented Patient Perspectives, segments where we hear from patients in their own words, a track sponsored by Vertex Pharmaceuticals.
Hello, my name is Brianna Warden, and I am the former Children's Tumor Foundation National Ambassador for 2020 and current Miss New York International 2022. I was born with neurofibromatosis type 1, or NF for short, but was not diagnosed until I was 2 months old. I have a large plexiform neurofibroma that encompasses my entire left side, but with the exception of my left leg. Unfortunately, NF is not well known where I live, so I travel to Boston from New York for treatments. I go about once a month, and most of my childhood and academic career was spent in and out of the hospital. I have endured more than 10 surgeries at Boston Children's Hospital, and one significant one was when I was 7 years old. I went through an 18-hour spinal fusion in which impacted my nerves and muscles so severely that I needed to relearn how to walk. Additionally, I had a wrist stabilization, 3 tumor debulkings to my left arm in which they removed significant amount of tumor, 2 more spinal fusions, and 3 malignant peripheral nerve sheath tumor resections, or MPNST for short. So cancerous tumors were also removed. And then about 3 weeks ago, I had a benign tumor resection removed as well that was causing significant pain. My first MPNST, the cancerous tumor, was discovered my freshman year of high school, and it was successfully removed, but the cancer then came back in 2 more spots about 18 months later. There was a complication with this surgery, and my left vocal cord was paralyzed. Those that know me know I love singing. Musical theater is a passion of mine, and I want to have a career in public speaking. With my vocal cord being paralyzed, I was not able to do what I loved, and it took 6 months of therapy to learn how to swallow, talk, and sing again. So luckily I can do all these things, but my left vocal cord is still partially paralyzed. 3 years ago, my tumors in my left arm were growing significantly, and my bones were beginning to deteriorate because of this tumor growth. The consistent tumor growth and associated pain was wearing me down mentally and physically, so my quality of life was declining rapidly. I asked my doctors to amputate my arm, but they informed me that my skin would not heal and I was at risk of an infection. So my skin was breaking down because the tumors were growing, so they said that I would not heal if they were to remove this tumor because my skin had been stretched so far from this tumor growth. But because of the funding from the Children's Tumor Foundation and the help with my doctors, I was placed on a clinical study for 2 years, and we saw a major significance in my left arm. My tumor shrunk about 24%, which is big, but the trial only lasted 2 years. So after stopping this study, my tumors then grew back bigger than before. But after about 2 months of being off of that study, I am now on selumetinib and have been for a total of 5 months now. And my tumors have shrunk more than they did previously. This just proves that clinical studies and the continued research is so important. This drug is now FDA approved. It's the first FDA approved drug for NF, and I am so excited to be a part of this process. I've been a patient representative for CTF at the Federal Drug Administration, where I speak about the importance of finding treatments to help not only myself, but the 2.5 million people who are impacted by NF. And as Miss New York International 2022, I also speak about the need for treatments and for making NF visible, because not many people know about this disorder. And my hope is that the chemotherapy can be FDA approved to the point where patients like myself can be placed on the chemo long-term instead of just that 2-year maximum. Our tumors keep growing back once we stop the medicine, so ultimately clinical studies and the need to fight for a cure for NF is so crucial for the patients and even families impacted by NF. The medicine has also improved my quality of life and has allowed me to feel confident in ways I hadn't before. I do still battle with everyday NF pain, but my dreams and goals of being an advocate and spokesperson are coming true. So I refuse to give up hope, and I will continue to advocate for NF research and for patients that need to be seen. I truly believe that we are one step closer in ending NF.
Hello, my name is Ella Balassa, and I'm a patient advocate and a consultant and a person living with cystic fibrosis, a genetic progressive lung disease.
Hey everyone, my name is Stephen Fratello, and I was diagnosed in 2015 with mast cell activation syndrome, and I suffered many years before that with a lot of food allergies, and obviously mast cell activation syndrome was the culprit, but it was just undiagnosed. And there are many people like me who go undiagnosed for many years and go to doctor's appointments where you're told that you just have too much anxiety or you're imagining it in your head.
Hello everyone, my name is Kimberly. I'm 25 years old and I'm affected by scleroderma, Raynaud's, and PS. I'm affected by scleroderma, which is a skin tightening condition. Raynaud's is losing blood circulation to your outer extremities, and APS is antiphospholipid syndrome, which is a condition where your body creates blood clots all over your body. For me personally, it affected the left side of my brain.
There's no cure for gastroparesis, and it will affect every area of my life, and I am learning how to deal with that. And in doing so, I want to live, but it is incredibly difficult and emotionally draining.
So it started when I was about 8 or 7, and I was having chronic abdominal pain. My parents had an HMO plan, and so we required a referral from the primary in order to see a GI specialist. Now, my parents knew that there was a chance that I had the rare disease familial adenomatous polyposis, as it runs in my family. My mother has it, my grandfather had it, and so on. However, the primary refused to refer me. She told my parents that I was a whiny child and there was nothing wrong with me. My parents had to change insurance plans to a PPO as soon as they could in order to get me treatment. I was finally seen by a pediatric GI specialist who immediately ordered an upper and lower scope and genetic testing. It turns out that I do indeed have FAP. Now, my pain was not a symptom of the FAP. It was actually because I was pre-ulcerous from stress. But it wasn't but a year later that I required my colon out due to my precancerous polyps turning cancerous. And so if it hadn't been for my parents taking action to do what they could to get me to see a GI specialist, I would be dead.
Despite CF being an invisible illness, I've had to shed the cloak of being normal and embrace the differences and handicaps when I require wearing supplemental oxygen through a nasal cannula. And despite the difficulty in feeling like I'm breathing through a straw at times, I've become an advocate for the development of novel therapies for treating antibiotic-resistant infections that are common in the CF population and are increasingly a dire issue even in the general population.
So it takes a while for patients to get diagnosed, and once you do, it's sort of a relief, but also it is upsetting, heartbreaking, frustrating, because you realize that your life is going to be very limited.
I knew my body. I knew my normal, and this wasn't it, and no one was listening to me until Johns Hopkins and not one or two physicians.
I have Crohn's disease. Crohn's disease doesn't have me, it doesn't define me, it doesn't determine who I am as a person. My doctors sent me out there and said, Maisha, you go out there on your own. They didn't give me any informative information. They didn't refer me to any doctors or any specialists. Everything that I know about Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, ulcerative proctitis, ostomy supplies, ostomy bags, was self-taught by myself, learning informative information, but most importantly, following a community of patient advocates like myself that experienced the same things that I was going through. This community not only inspired me to want to be a patient advocate, but it inspired me to want to step up and meet with legislators and speak up for people's rights like myself.
I also speak publicly at conferences and meetings and to healthcare companies about the value of the patient voice and perspective that should be present throughout the healthcare continuum. Having a biology background, I have a passion for encouraging patient empowerment and self-advocacy to improve overall health literacy. And this has made such a huge impact in my own life and my health outcomes. And I also hope for changes in accessibility and reducing burdens associated with clinical trial participation and broadening inclusion criteria of trials. I'd like to see healthcare working towards minimizing the barriers that we as patients experience in drug cost and coverage, and receive support in navigating healthcare to improve our quality of life.
It's a shame that my life had to be shaped by my experiences in such a way, but it's important to me that others don't go through what I went through, or at least they know they're not alone, and hopefully I can empower them. And that's all what life is about to me now, is what I can do to help others.
I experienced step therapy where my insurance company wanted me to try a medication that I had already failed, which was Remicade and Humira. They wanted me to go back on it, and I refused. It took me 142 days of fighting back and forth with insurance and doctors and faxing and emailing all 342 pages of my medical records. It made me want to fight because they were putting me through a process that I didn't understand, and I refused to take no for an answer.
It's a rough road between getting diagnosed, getting some help, getting some relief, learning how to manage your chronic condition, and then trying to socialize, to start your life over again in terms of having a social life. It can be very, very difficult for people with chronic illnesses, and making friends, dating, all of those things are very difficult when you are not feeling your best and when you deal with a chronic illness.
So I lived a pretty average life from 12 to 18, high school. I managed to play the violin. I was a cheerleader. Life was going great, and I had plans for the near future. I was going to be a real estate agent. I was going to go to college. I had all these amazing plans. And then at 21, I had two strokes, and that was when I was diagnosed with antiphospholipid syndrome. That was a very scary time. That was only 4 years ago. I'm now 25. I lost rapid weight. I was 92 pounds in a matter of 2 months. We didn't know what was going on. I remember clearly I was having dinner with my family in my bedroom, and all of a sudden my mouth started drooping, and my parents were like, "What did you say?" It was a very scary time, but like I said, I'm grateful I got another chance, and now I can fully talk about my illness and inspire others. And I started my podcast, Self Love Sister, and it's been, I want to say, a good journey, because I've been able to connect with amazing people, and I've been able to connect with brands and talk about my story, nevertheless without crying. And I still get emotional, every once in a while looking back, but I'm grateful I get to live the life that God always knew I was capable of, and I'm able to talk about my illness. Thank you.
Show empathy. So please listen to all our stories, and I hope this helps.
It's something that more people need to know about. We need more advocacy in the chronic illness community to have people step in and educate doctors, caregivers, and just people in the community that people are not crazy, they're not making it up, they're not hypochondriacs, and that we are people who are dealing with very real issues, and we are just looking to be treated with dignity, respect, understanding, and kindness. And that's my message. Thank you for listening.
I use my voice not only to speak out for myself, but I use my voice to speak out for others that feel as though they are unheard. I advocate for you, for me, and for everyone else. Me being a patient advocate wants me to inspire and let people know that Crohn's disease isn't just a bathroom disease. It affects you mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I advocate for your rights and mine. This is my story.
Thank you for joining us for NewYorkBIO's Patient Engagement Summit, and to the patients, partners, and sponsors that help make this event possible. Please visit our website at www.newyorkbio.org and follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter for more.